Okay. Let me check on the Twitters to see if we're live. Yep, seems to be working. And when I do the texting, like messaging back people, I can just do that in this live chat on from my phone, can't I?
Yeah, you could do it in like Restream as well.
Yeah.
If you have that open, because that one just has like everything coming in. Whereas like if you're,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean?
Let me just open that up. Restream. I've got Zapstream, Restream. Here it is. Restream, and now I go into. I can just see the episodes. We're live, kind of. Do I click on that to go to the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there we are. Add a new. Add
And then you look at the right hand side and you'll see channels, chat, and you click on chat.
Right hand side. Oh yeah, chat. Here we are. Oh yeah, we're live. Test, testicle. Let's see if that comes through in the live chat here. No, you can't see that on the. That doesn't come through on Twitter. Because only Twitter shows on Twitter, but everything comes into Restream. Yeah?
I'd say you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
No?
Can you see my message?
I'm just thinking about how wrong you are.
Just as a general rule.
Yeah.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Well.
Yeah, no, it's all there. You're being a clown.
Okay. All right, mate. Well, it's nice to speak to you too. Lovely, as always.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're live.
We're actually live, yeah.
Max is very nice. He's not a clown. So
he's not
quite
a
the gentleman.
Cunt. Yeah. How are you, genuinely?
So if anyone
morning?
out there wants to just like verify that, you know, audio's good, all that stuff.
Yeah. Let us
Feel
know.
free.
Yeah. Well, so this is a bit of a different one this week. We have a live, not live, but sort of live show. The live part is us now for the next half an hour or so. We're going to jump into the Fart9 stuff that you've been working on. And I think you said something about PayNyms as well, but we had a bad connection, so I couldn't quite hear that bit. But we're going to do that, and then we're going to play the live recording that me and Q&A did. That's going to go after that between 9 and 10, and I'll jump into the stream and do messages and stuff. That's the plan, right?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. So tell me, mate, what's on your mind? What's been going on? You've been beavering away, like the Canadian that you are, working on all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, just kind of getting obsessed with the Start9 stuff. Right now, going through a little bit of trouble just because I'm doing the 4.0 version of Start9 in a virtual machine, so I'm losing connection locally, and so if anyone has any tips on using VirtualBox and connecting locally, hit me up in the DMs because it's been frustrating.
So hold on, just so I understand. So you've got to run it in a virtual machine for testing rather than doing it on your own.
I don't have to. It's just the one laptop that I have available is a Dell Inspiron, and it has just troubles sometimes with like Linux distributions and whatnot, and obviously like the basis of like StartOS is on a similar base, right? Okay. So it just it has to do something with like the display drivers and stuff like that. So yeah, just a little bit of a hassle. But,
so you're dropping connection when you're trying to interact with this virtual machine, which is what you're trying to build and work on.
Yeah, so I had like another machine that's running like a 0.3.6, the one that everyone runs. And I don't want to deprecate that one just yet. So it's just sitting there, runs fine. And on that one, that's a Lenovo, I think. So that's running fine. It's just I don't have a lot of hardware around,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just trying to make use of what I got. Um, but yeah, because of the new Start 9 that's coming out, 0.4.0, long awaited. Um, I'm doing packaging for stuff like such as Ashigaru terminal, Fulcrum, and what else do I got on the list there? I think that's it.
Okay.
And yeah, so just getting that all figured out.
So you're building out the Ashigaru terminal, which people I believe can currently use, but just not on this 4.0 thing. Is that right? And they have to sideload it.
Yeah, well, most like yeah, the only people using 4.0 right now are the developers, pretty much. Like we're
Okay.
just all, throwing the ISO like on a USB and firing it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just because, Start 9 obviously wants all these packages, all put up and like in a nice like presentation, ready to go, like for whenever they're gonna launch.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't have all these things like kind of half-assed. So So yeah, that's kind of just like the work everyone's doing right now. Like you can obviously everyone can go on the GitHub and like look at like the progress. They have like a nice list of all the applications that the Start 9 team is dealing with, the community packages that need to be dealt with for people that are developers in those marketplaces, and yeah. So while I was working on 0.3.6 for Ashigaru Terminal, I was able to fire that up pretty quickly and get that as a side loadable version. But the reason why you won't see it in a community store or a marketplace or a community beta marketplace is just because there's no reason to go through all the testing for that version when 4.0 is kind of on the horizon here. So just dedicate
Okay.
all the man hours for the 4.0 testing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and the same thing, no other updates. Like even though I have Dojo 1.27 ready to go with all the great updates that Pavel made to it, with the Sorban stuff
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. That's just a side loadable version. We're not going to go through the testing for Dojo on 3.6 anymore. And Eric PP right now is working on the Dojo version for 4.0. So you'll see the extended release come into those marketplaces when Start 9 is ready to go.
So, so Dojo, obviously that was worked on. What was that? 6 months ago, a year ago, or something like that. And that was a whole host of you sort of helping with that and getting it ready. And that's now running fine, but you're just waiting for it to go on, like be ready for 4.0. And now Ashigaru Terminal as well. So at that stage, people will be able to interact with their Ashigaru wallet in a pretty nice, easy, clean setup and run everything they kind of really need on their Start 9 connected to their phone.
Yeah, exactly. And the other part about it too is that like I don't know how far I want to go with this, but I guess I'll just put it out into the ether. Um, what I kind of envision as well is having dedicated node boxes that have like a certain amount of structure um, based on the packages that I and others have worked on
Mm-hmm.
that are all within like one ecosystem. So
Yeah.
if you think about it, you have Ashigaru Terminal, important part of forward privacy for your funds. You have your Dojo. That is for you to communicate with the network and to push transactions, right? So those are two things. Obviously, we've worked on Fulcrum, which is especially when Kalen comes out with 2.0, hopefully in August, um, then you'll see like an unmatched indexer, right? So those are three things there. Start9 also offers Ghost, which is a blogging slash, like, you can make websites with it.
Yeah.
So if you had all these things kind of packaged up into, like, you install an ISO and it has all these things on there already.
A
So you
bit
don't have
like
to
when
go to marketplaces, download anything. Like, it all just comes pre-installed.
a bit like with
That's kind of
graphene.
the vision I see, so that people can just go and get an ISO, and it's just like your one-stop shop for, I want to participate in this ecosystem that we're building out. Obviously, I think that's a little farther down the road, but I just kind of want to get people's minds thinking about that, because I think it'd be pretty cool.
It'd be very cool. So it's a bit like graphene in that the operating system comes pre-installed with the types of things that they think that you might find useful. And so someone could go and just be like, I want everything that's going to make it useful for me running Ashigaru and some other things that people are going to probably want to play around with. And when you say a node box, are you thinking like someone actually buys this thing with like everything pre-installed, or are you talking about like it's just something that they download and then run on whatever hardware they have? You thinking actually producing some hardware as well?
No, it's like, if you ever ask like a guy like Max Tannehill about hardware, like, he'll just say like it's just such a tough game to participate in. When he used to run Mamushi.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Right, like dealing with phones, like, and obviously, like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, this is an awesome business, super cool, but it's just hard dealing with hardware. So it would just be, you go to the GitHub, there's an ISO there ready for you, that kind of thing.
Okay.
People can also point out if like my idea is stupid too, but that's just kind of what I had going through my head.
I'm sure they will.
that happens. So
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time.
I mean, it sounds like a good idea to me, at least. It's like, okay, you can have this thing and it sort of has everything that you're going to need. Just the fact that even without that, though, like even without that extra step, just the fact that these things are available on a Start9, which is so easy to run and so, from my experience, so stable, is a massive step. Like, if we think about how much more difficult it was to run these things and to have a stable node, like I never had really any success with it previously. I'd always have issues, and like we talked about with the Ashigaru terminal, running that on a laptop, it's great, it's cool, but it's only going to work while you've actually got the thing up and running. So just having this dedicated, always on server running is a massive step. I think it can't really be overstated. I think it's something, when I do my next setup, I'm kind of thinking about just running something on its own with this stuff, like its own dedicated thing separate to everything else. Because the last couple of times that I've tried to, like when I tried to do Dojo on my Start9, if you remember, it just fucking collapsed, and like I don't know what happened, something with the hard drive and all that kind of stuff. And the same when I tried to have a Monero node running on it, it caused all sorts of problems. I don't know if that's still a problem, but it definitely was on the Start9. So yeah, just like maybe having something separate, one of these, what are they called? Is it like Geek Pie, or one of these like relatively cheap little boxes?
Yeah, like I'm an Optiplex maxi, like, because it's like
the Dell thing.
Yeah, like Lenovo, like
I thought it was Dell.
All the guys like in TSB like run these things. I forget. Like, I don't know if sometimes they're interchangeable, sometimes they're not.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just the idea that like for an extra $100, you're just getting like supremely better hardware. In terms of
like quality of build, you mean, or like
Yeah, like reliability, all
yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with like x86, all that stuff, right? You don't have to deal with um I don't think Raspberry is x86, so it's like an ARM or something like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm out of my depth, obviously, as people can tell.
Okay, so and you can get one of these optiplexes for what, $300 or something like that,
Yeah,
$400. You
yeah,
can get them
Oh,
used
and
as
even cheaper, like
yeah.
just yeah, used hardware markets. I think there's even a guy. His name's Warren. I forget his Warren Tagami. I think he runs like a community on Twitter, and he
Mm-hmm.
just like posts like optiplexes that are for sale, that are good deals.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, no, it's I've never interacted with the community itself. I just always see it on the side there. Here, let me see here. Yeah, use ThinkPad for LN nodes. But yeah, his latest one was like yeah, on June 23rd. Xeon 64 gigs of RAM, 2 TB SSD, and it was like $300.
Wow, that's very good.
Like that's crazy.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, so I mean, really, you could run everything you need, and your Monero node and everything, all like this sort of like a uh, privacy specific server that you have on all the time, for a few $100s, and that's, I mean, that's not that much more than people were paying for like a Raspberry Pi and like a nice little box for it, like a 3D printed box or whatever. People would spend sort of similar money, and this is far and away better.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like I always believe like just separating all these things out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys have talked about it in past episodes, but it's just the idea that like all this Ashigaru related stuff or Bitcoin related stuff, like that's going on one thing. Or if like if you're a Proxmox guy and you're containerizing all these things, you could have like 6 Start9s going on a Proxmox, and one container's running Bitcoin stuff and another container's running like your pictures and your documents that are personal, right? And then these containers are never like touching each other, they don't know about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's plenty of ways to do it. I'm not as smart as like 8 Mithrandir, so I'm just gonna be a be an ape about it and just grab another piece of hardware, because I can
Mm-hmm.
physically see like the delineation between like what is on what box, right? So
Yeah, yeah. And these Dell Optiplexes don't exactly take up a lot of space anyway if you're running them at home.
exactly,
It's
yeah,
like, that for someone like me, the same. I'd be like, okay, I know these are separate. They're separate boxes. That makes sense in my head. I'm not like relying on some sort of clever software or whatever it is, whatever you just mentioned, that I don't understand. Like just having them physically separated is preferable to someone like me. And the other thing is, like, at least if one thing goes down, it's not everything. It's not the full stack. It's not like, okay, now because this has gone down, so has my BTC Pay, and now we can't receive payments at Ungovernable Misfits, and that's all gone down, and the Lightning node's gone down, and everything else. If it is sort of containerized and separated out, you're gonna have less problems, I think.
yeah, yeah. So then, I got about 8 minutes here, boss.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to make sure that I do a little bit of housekeeping here. Um, there's a gentleman named Remco, and he was the guy that made Sparrow WebTop for Start9. So it allowed you to run your Sparrow wallet on your Start9,
Mm-hmm.
and it uses a so WebTop it's a really simplified Linux environment.
Mm-hmm.
So it runs like essentially like an operating system within your operating system, just in this little Docker container, right? The way that Start9 outlines how it should be. And so to get Ashigaru terminal online, I just cloned Remco's repo, and I essentially just, replaced the Sparrow guts with the Ashigaru terminal guts, and that's how it came around so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to thank Remco for, if he didn't kind of build the path there, I would probably still be hammering away at it. So thank you so much, man. And if you go check out his repo, he's got like at least 6 different like Start9 projects that he's contributing to. So the
Nice.
guy's an absolute machine.
Shout out to you, mate.
And yeah, and then just before, like, so it's yeah, okay. So another thing was with the op return code. Um, obviously Bitcoin Core has decided to make that an unlimited byte size.
Mm-hmm.
So, or at least not put a cap on it, let's say. So that creates the ability to make a multiple notification transaction. And in PayNym world, that would be connecting to multiple PayNyms within one transaction, because you're not restricted anymore. So I think that'd be really cool. And for instance, this would be a use case for me because I think about it all the time. I have my wallet, and over however many years I've connected to certain people. I'm connected to Max, I'm connected to Barn Miner, and I've made payments to all these guys over the years. Okay, well, maybe I just want to switch up my hot wallet. Like, it's not a lot of effort, and maybe you want to create a better passphrase or something like that. Make it a little longer. But so if you create a new wallet, then you're going to lose all those contacts and all those connections.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if you could make the new wallet, and then just with one transaction, you could be connecting back to all the people from your old wallet. So that's just one use case I can think of. But yeah, I just think it would be really good from a UX perspective. Not because that's, in my mind, that's PayNyms is amazing, but it's just about being able to carry things like an address book, carry it to another wallet, carry it. You know what I mean?
I just did the most retarded thing that I've done in at least a day, mate. I went to mute my mic, and I slightly misjudged where I was pressing, and I hung up our call for Zencaster, so it's not recording on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like an absolute fucking amateur. But this should still all be working and recording, and I should still get the OBS recording, shouldn't I?
I have no idea.
Okay. It should be. I mean, let's have a listen. Can we hear it in... I just did the most retarded Yeah. So we can still hear. So then I can just save
we're good?
it. I think we're fine. I'm just fucking stupid. But so, okay, the PayNym stuff, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, when you want to do payments as a business, or you're doing like larger batching transactions and stuff like that, it would actually be a really, really fucking useful thing. Like, obviously we have our own use cases for it, and like they're great for that, but like if you have 100 staff and you're paying them in Bitcoin, and you don't want to have address reuse and all that sort of problem, like PayNyms are really fucking good for that.
Yeah, and you could already batch, like if you're connected to all the PayNyms, right? Like you actually, I forget what the terms are. Like there's connect and regardless. So you've done the initial notification transaction, let's say, right? And you're connected to these PayNyms. You can batch transact to PayNyms already, but it's just that initial one where it's just like maybe, because I think the deterrence is that like people don't want to do like a transaction connecting to each person, boom, 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 right? So if you were able to just do like 20 at once,
yeah.
To me, like that UX is just like awesome.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And how would that work for
Yeah.
fees and stuff like that? Would that bring the fees down as well, presumably?
I would assume that you would. Yeah, it just depends.
Okay.
You know, we're sub 1 sat, right? Are we still?
Yeah. Sub 1 sat summer. Yeah, which was good actually because I had to close some Lightning channels yesterday, so that was quite handy.
Oh, mate, we're at 5 sats per byte right now, technically based on mempool.space.
Okay.
So
heavy.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. What does Nextblock have to say?
Was it nextblock.is, is it?
Nextblock.cypherpunktools.com.
Okay.
Hosted by sponsor of the show, Random Nym, and my Nymbox.
What a legend. I recorded with him, was it yesterday? No, day before yesterday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. Really.
All right, mate. Well, I got to head out here.
Okay. All right, mate. All right.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Sorry, some of us have jobs and things to do, and I understand. I know what it is.
It was a blast.
Okay, mate. Always good to speak to you. Before you go, can you just stay on the line for 1 second? Because I need to now play the live but not live bit with Q&A. Do I just press the little I button and then play, do you think?
Yeah, try it right now while we're...
Yeah, and shall I stop my audio capture? Like, shall I mute my audio capture?
No, just let her go. And then pause it afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So.
Well, here we are. We are back again. Welcome to Freedom Tech Fridays.
Live, not live
although
is like
this is a little bit of a different Freedom Tech Friday for a multitude of reasons.
The volume.
So let's get our excuses out of the way first, shall we, Max?
Get them lined up.
You're good.
First off, to be very clear, we are being streamed live. Max is now sat in front of his computer, but he's watching this recording, and it's being streamed to you guys.
Yeah.
We are currently sitting here on Wednesday afternoon UK time, recording ahead of time because I'm going on holiday in the morning. Seth is also otherwise engaged on Friday, and I didn't want to leave you poor listeners just with Max waffling to himself for an hour because nobody needs that, do they? And of course, we didn't want to fall at the fourth hurdle. So I think this is the fourth Freedom Tech Friday.
Shall I now mute my
So I thought, let's you and I meet up.
Yeah, you should.
Seth is also busy today, unfortunately.
I need to just mute the Mac
we'll pre-record a show. We've still got loads of questions from previous weeks that we haven't gotten to, so we're still going to have some great audience participation.
Can you still hear me?
But yeah, we're just doing it a little bit back to front, but we're doing it in good faith, so that we make sure that the listeners that have got their whistle wet over the course of the last 3 weeks with 3 wonderful shows, so that they don't miss out this week. If I'm not mistaken, when the listeners are listening to this, they will have just heard you and Jordan actually waffling on, actually live, for about 30 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, I wanted to bring some live element, so we're going to jump on half an hour before. We'll probably cover some of the stuff he's been doing with Fart9. And then we'll jump into this, and then I'll also stay on in the chat as well. Okay. So, but no one else can hear me now, can they? It's only because we're in Zencast. Be able to waffle on in the chat. I'll hang up this call just in case. Join in and participate in that way.
Love to hear it. It'd be good to get Jordan on. I love you. He hasn't been on in terms of voice. Obviously, he's involved in every single show we do. But it'd be nice to hear his dulcet tones once again. So, yeah, I'm just going to go out on a limb and say the last 30 minutes that you guys recorded, didn't record. The last 30 minutes that you guys did live was fantastic. And I think you both nailed it.
I appreciate that.
Quick reminder for those that are new to this might be your first ever Freedom Tech Friday. Welcome. This is traditionally a live stream every Friday on Twitter, Noster, and on YouTube, all on the Ungovernable accounts on all 3 of those places, where we talk live for 60 minutes about anything Freedom Tech related. It could be something that we're interested in, some new tool that we've seen. It could be something that's in the news. Basically, anything that is Freedom Tech related, we usually kick off the show with kind of a little bit of a mini topic where the 3 of us, or today, the 2 of us, will have a bit of a chat, and then we will get on to some listener questions. Some of them will come from the socials in the week, because we always ask for audience participation leading up to that. But hopefully there's going to be people in the live chat as well whilst you're there on Friday, taking some more questions that we can then use in subsequent weeks as well. How's that for a recap, Max? Have I missed anything?
No, I think that's very good. I'll just add in there, sometimes we can source new updates and things that we haven't even heard of in the Freedom Tech world from you guys. So if you have any ideas, it doesn't have to just be questions. You can give us a nudge and let us know if there's any cool Freedom Tech stuff. Just no shitty bullshit, please. Don't send us white papers and some janky, weird bullshit thing. But real stuff, send it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep harping on about this, but audience participation is a huge part of this show. We try to pack as much as we can in, and we want to talk about the stuff that you guys want to hear about and answer the questions that you guys have got about anything Freedom Tech related. So please, please, please continue to get involved. The initial uptake has been wonderful. So long may it continue. Thank you to everybody that's getting involved and helping make the show what it is. Last week, we gave a good recap on the Tornado Cash proceedings, which are still ongoing. This week, just to show how wide-ranging it is, the topic that I've picked for you and I to discuss at the top of the show, Max, before we get into some of the wonderful listener questions, is self-custody a technical challenge? Is it just a technical challenge? Or is it a cultural one as well? Now, to set the scene here, in the course of the last 12 to 18 months, I have personally seen quite a big, how can I put it, dilution of what we would traditionally constitute the average Bitcoiner. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because there is no kind of average Bitcoiner. But what I mean is, I guess the most commonly, I don't know, you might need to help me out here, Max. But the most common approach that people take when they're interacting with Bitcoin, how's that?
What's the norm, I guess? And what's
that is a great way to distill it down.
That we would interact with. And yeah, I've seen the same, like a massive change.
In years gone by, the norm was you bought some Bitcoin probably on an exchange like Kraken, or maybe, if you're you like to go the extra leg, you bought, in cash on a peer-to-peer market or directly from a miner friend or something like that. And the norm was you put that into a self-custody wallet, be that a mobile wallet or a hardware wallet, you held your own keys. My first question to you, Max, is, and we obviously don't have stats to back this up, but would you say that it's still the norm for, or there are more people practicing self-custody with Bitcoin than there are not practicing self-custody? Or do you think that the balance has already tipped in favor of people holding IOUs?
I think it depends how you look at it. It depends if you're looking at number of users or if you're looking at percentage of coins held.
Well, let's break that down. Answer both for me.
So I think if it's percentage of coins held, I think it would probably heavily tip towards not having self-custody. It would probably be more ETFs, exchanges, whatever else. I mean, like a sailor, for example, like he's got a few coins kicking about, but he isn't self-custodying that. So there's a few of those types. So I think it probably slants that way in terms of percentage. Total users, I'd probably say is the same way. I would say a lot of people, from what I experience, who are first getting onboarded, are shilled something like Wallet of Satoshi to get their first sats. I wouldn't class that as self-custody either. I think a lot of people are walking around with some sats in their pocket, and it's not on an exchange, but it's also not self-custody. So the traditional, as you talked about, holding your own keys, having a backup of your seed words, using hardware, all the rest of it. I have zero stats to back this up, and I'm in my own bubble, and so are you. But I think that it's probably not the average anymore.
And not why. We're going to get onto the why we think that's shifted soon, but the what of. So if people aren't buying on exchanges or peer-to-peer exchanges and holding their coins in a self-custodial wallet, what alternatives do you think are the main drivers for this shift that we've seen in the past couple of years towards people not practicing self-custody?
I think the ETFs are probably a big part of it. And I think also these kind of holding companies like MSTR and the copycats are probably a big part of it as well. And just general sort of cultural change in terms of what I see and what people are talking about. Like, where it used to be much more of a hard line of like, not your keys, not your coins kind of approach. Now it's like, well, eCash is cool. You know, it doesn't really matter. Like, yeah, you don't really need to really have control. And, you know, there's all these things in between. Yeah, Liquid's all right. And it's just much more of a loosey-goosey kind of approach, even within the circles of Bitcoiners, which is a small percentage anyway. I just think it's all of those things making the change.
Yeah, I co-sign that, to be honest. And then I'm now going to move on to the why, and I'll kick off, and you can chime in afterwards. So why do we think there's been a significant shift towards people holding things like ETFs, treasury companies, or even just leaving their shit on an exchange, which we know clearly is not a great idea? Me personally, I think the first driver is price appreciation, which then drives more people becoming interested in Bitcoin. And the more people that we get interested in Bitcoin, naturally, you know, we're going to get more kind of general population people, whereas the kind of ideological early adopters that we've seen, you know, spanning from 2009 all the way up to, I'd say, probably 2017, those people as a percentage of the general population are very, very small. And the more and more general population we get come into the quote unquote, I guess, community, then the smaller and smaller and more representative the kind of Bitcoin community becomes as a part of the larger, I guess, global community, where those types of people are just in the minority because of, well, I guess that's just the way the world works. So we get number go up, we get people get interested, and we get people that are not as ideologically aligned as us coming into Bitcoin, and they see things through a different lens. They're mostly well off, and I use that term comparatively with the rest of the world, Westerners, you know, probably North America, most of Europe, where these people come in and, you know, yes, we can point fingers at inflation and shitty governments and poorly run countries, all of which are true for all of the countries I've just mentioned. But the quality of life and the stability of the currency in those countries compared to other parts of the world is like exponentially better. So those kind of, again, quote unquote, wealthy Westerners that are coming into the Bitcoin ecosystem see less of a value proposition in the ideologies or properties of Bitcoin that you and I and the more early adopters did. In the case of, you know, uncentrable digital cash, peer-to-peer electronic cash, yada yada, all of the usual talking points. They just haven't felt enough pain yet from, you know, having bank accounts closed or oppression, etc., to be looking for a solution to that and seeing Bitcoin as the solution to that. What they're starting to feel right now, even in these Western countries, is inflation that is starting to take hold since, I guess, well, it's really started to ramp up since COVID, since they shut the world down and started to do all of their QE/money printing, and, you know, clearly we're feeling the effects of that now. So I think that's been another driver of driving in more, I guess, what we'd call normies that would consider themselves, you know, not on the breadline, that have some money to invest. The only need that they're feeling right now, other than the allure of number go up, is that they're starting to feel a bit of inflation. You know, they've got less money left at the end of the month with their paycheck, and, you know, it only takes enough of us kind of ideological people to start or continue rabbiting on about inflation and some Bitcoin being a potential hedge against that, for the normies to start to take notice, because they are starting to feel that pain, and naturally you want that pain to stop and you look for alternatives, and clearly more and more people are looking to Bitcoin for that. But I say all of that with a view of, you know, these people are coming in and they just see it as an inflation hedge. So if that's all they see Bitcoin as an inflation hedge and something that's going to, you know, not lose value over time, and they don't see the allure of all of the other properties of Bitcoin that I mentioned earlier, then the only thing that matters to them essentially is price appreciation or having price exposure to Bitcoin.
Currently.
Everything else, and they're going to do take the path of least resistance. And this is where I'll kind of take my hat off and say that the ETFs and the treasury companies are, for most people, the path of least resistance, because they've probably already got, access through their bank to like an investment account or something like that. Like it's quite a common thing in the Western world is to have one, even if it's used very little. And for that to be shoved under their nose and them to just hit a couple of buttons on their phone alongside their usual banking activities, then I can see why people do it. That's aside from all of the criticisms that I would clearly level at, the fact that it's IOU, all that sort of stuff. But I think that's one of the main reasons as to why people are, number one, looking to Bitcoin. Well, I guess quotes Bitcoin exposure, and not going down the route of self-custody. And I'm going to pause there just to let you chime in before I continue.
Yeah, no, I agree with most of what you said. Like, the people who are approaching me about buying Bitcoin now are generally boomers that I was talking to about this for the last like 7 or 8 years. And they're starting to, like, a couple of family members, a couple of friends, and people are like, oh yeah, this Bitcoin thing I'll buy it now. It's a good time to buy it now. And I think a lot of that is because they can get that exposure, that it's, obviously price appreciation, etc., etc. I would say the majority of those people, even though self-custody is so much easier than it was previously, I would still feel like they would struggle. And even if they wouldn't struggle, they'd have the fear. And probably half of them, actually more than half of them, would not be able to shut their fucking mouths down the pub or wherever they are, and they would tell everyone how much they've invested, what gains they have, all the rest of it. And then my issue there is you have someone who's not technically savvy, who doesn't understand what Bitcoin's really about. They just seen that it's gone up in value, they want to get some. If they're a bit of a technical tard and they can't keep their mouth shut, we've seen what can happen, and that would put me on edge even trying to help them with self-custody. Obviously, for someone who's like really close and I really care about, I'll take the time and explain and everything. But I think honestly, for some of these people, maybe it is safe. It's safer until it's not. It's safer until they log in and it's like you can't access it, or they've suddenly started taxing it, or they've done some sort of 6102 or any of the crazy shit that they could do. It's easier and safer until it's not.
Yeah, do you think that's the next kind of pain point that people, sorry, I won't say people, I'll say the demographic that I'm talking about, the normie that's coming in that is, not practicing self-custody. Do you think that is going to be one of the next potential pain points that kind of forces people towards self-custody? And I'm talking like 6102 maybe, or wealth taxes, unrealized cap gains, etc., etc. Do you think like a rising prevalence of that is the next natural thing that would be the impetus for the next, I guess, tranche of people to see the true value of self-custody? Or do you think it's going to be driven by something else?
No, I think it will be that. I think it will be unrealized gains or something along those lines that I see probably happening not too long from now in Europe. I think that's what will suddenly get people to be like, oh, fuck, we need to do something now. But then, even then, it's like, okay, they introduce it. Well, now it's happened. Like, you can't go back in time. So now a percentage of your wealth has been seized. Now, moving forward, you might decide to try and self-custody. Whatever wealth you've already stored, you've already lost a percentage of that. So you could only do that going forward. And then if it's anything else that's more drastic than a wealth tax, like a war breaks out or a natural disaster or whatever, there's like physical threat and that kind of stuff, then again, it's like it's too late. If you can't access it, you can't access it. So I don't know. I think there's just a percentage of people who will probably not make that jump. I think a lot of these like 75, 80-year-old people sat on large amount of wealth. They're just used to doing things a certain way, and I don't think they will see the value in uncensorable, unseizable, in theory, money until it's too late. Those type. But I think there's also going to be a group of is it Zoomers and like the generations below us,
Gen Z, yeah.
Gen Z. I think they already see it. I think they already see can't buy property. Things are pretty tough. There's a large percentage of them who are just like, what the fuck is going on? And I think they are more leaning into the idea of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They're already generally pretty technically savvy enough to fucking set up a passport. I mean, I can do it, so they can certainly do it. They would do it while online gaming with their 20 mates, while doing whatever chat rooms they're doing and everything else. They do it all at the same time, blindfolded. So, you know, not to be mean, but I care less about the boomers and whether they're going to go on their 12th cruise of the year, and if they get a percentage of their funds seized. I'm not saying I don't care, but I care less than our generation and the generations that come after us, because it's fucking hard out there and they need this stuff. Like, they see the need for it. I think there is hope. I think that you just have to accept that some people won't, but the people after us is where we need to educate and allow them to use these tools.
Yeah, well said. I just want to quickly push back on your thought process around the fact that maybe a 6102 or unrealized cap gains probably being the more likely thing to ever happen would be an impetus to push people towards self-custody, because for the demographic, again, that we're talking about, the quote-unquote normie, even if they did hold it in self-custody, 95% of them are going to have bought through Coinbase or similar. So the fact that they hold it in self-custody, yes, it means that they couldn't be easily, taken from their account. But if we're talking about unrealized capital gains, all it takes is a sternly worded letter from the IRS or the HMRC, and 95% of those people are going to fold like a pack of cards. And to be clear, like, understandably so. Like, nobody wants to go to jail over this shit.
No, not really. The only other option they have is really just to flee. But then most countries actually will work with the IRS or HMRC, and if you have any assets in the new country, then they can come after them. It's not just like get on a plane and leave. And most people, especially at that age group, their lives are complicated enough and enough ties that it makes it very difficult to leave. So in majority of cases, like you say, 95, 98% of people are just going to go, there you are. That there's your money, HMRC. Go and fucking spend it wisely, as you always do.
Yeah, I think that to answer my own question about like what could be the next kind of impetus for the next drive towards self-custody, aside from user experience, which is the thing I want to go into shortly, could be one of these big regulated entities that are holding an ETF, or maybe even a bank that's self-custodying Bitcoin on behalf of its customers, is that one of these suffers a really large loss. Completely unclear to me what would happen to the creditors there. If it was large enough, I'd say the government may step in and make people whole again. But I know with a lot of these bank or smaller banks that are taking their first steps into this sort of stuff, the government have said, look, you're kind of on your own here. We can't guarantee this sort of stuff. But I personally think that, a large enough event like that from one of the, the big 5 or 10 banks like HSBC, Barclays, Chase, or something like that, if they were ever to go into this kind of world where they were holding it for their customers and they lost a shit ton of it, that could be a big driver to wake people up and be like, holy shit, if an institution that I've trusted with my wealth for my entire life can fuck up this badly, then maybe I need to look for an alternative.
Maybe, but do you not think they would have thought that every other time a bank or institution has fucked up in such a enormous way over the last few years? Like, I don't know if they would even think that. It would be someone else's fault. Honestly, I don't think that would do it. If Coinbase, if they had a massive hack or something like that,
yeah,
I think well, don't Coinbase hold all Sailors sats and loads of other people's as well?
I've heard various different companies banded around.
Hmm.
I'm not entirely sure.
If something like that went down, then it wouldn't be the proper normies who have got it in their investment accounts. It would be the next group, which are like, oh, okay, this is a separate thing. I'm going to have it on an exchange. Well, I'll just keep it on Coinbase. They've been around for a long time, or
Hmm.
equivalent. They've been around for a long time. They're going to do a better job than me. Blah 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 blah. I think those types of people might then rethink things, but then it's already been taken, so they'd have to start again.
Yeah, indeed. And just quickly before we go on to the next point about your point around, well, wouldn't they have already done that with the banks that have failed in years gone by? Well, the only other option they had was another bank until Bitcoin
Yeah,
came
true.
along. So there is an
True.
alternative now.
That's true.
The last thing I want to cover off with this in and around this question is we've skirted around the concept of people taking the easiest path, the ETF, their stockbroker account, their banking account, and just holding paper Bitcoin or an IOU on an exchange. And that is the easiest path for most people, whether we like it or not, because they're already kind of in that ecosystem, and they don't have to, more importantly, take responsibility. Like if it's in there, they just know that, that bank's been around for God knows how many years, and if I lose my password, they'll help me out. Which brings me on to the last point of UX improvements and in and around wallets, mobile wallets, hardware wallets, anything to do with self-custody. You and I have been in the space for a similar amount of time, and I'm sure I can probably speak to you for you here and say that the user experience improvements we've seen in the last 7 years in terms of self-custody has been huge.
Oh, fuck yeah.
It's only a number of years ago where people had to kind of save individual private keys, like HD wallets as we know it,
Mm-hmm.
backed up by seed words with almost unlimited amounts of addresses, are not actually that old of a phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that we take for granted now. And again, hardware wallets, offline key storage, that wasn't even possible just a handful of years ago. So we've come a long, long way. But clearly, it's not enough for us to see levels of self-custody that we maybe once hoped for, or we thought of would happen by the time we got to 2025. So I'm going to let you take this one first, because naturally this is kind of my bag here. It's what I do day to day, and I've obviously got some takes on it. But what needs to change in the self-custody world for you to think, okay, doing it through my Chase bank is no longer the easiest one, or there is an equally easy equivalent in self-custody? What would need to change in the architecture of any app or wallet, or just generally in the ecosystem, to get closer to that becoming a reality?
I'll flip it on its head a little bit. I think that the $5 wrench problem is going to become a larger problem as things get worse out there and things get better for Bitcoin. I think that when these numbers start to get bigger and these threats or these attacks start to become more enticing for criminals and more people's data gets leaked, I just think that that's going to ramp up. And honestly, I see that as probably the biggest. It's not specifically a UX hurdle, but it kind of is, because to protect yourself from those attacks, you have to do things quite differently than just taking control of your funds. Like, there's levels to this stuff. And so my thoughts are like things like time locks. Is it like degregating multi-sigs that go down to one address in case something happens to the person holding and they want to make sure their family gets it. Those are the types of things. I don't know if you specifically call it UX, but it is the experience that you have whilst holding. I actually think that's the biggest one. I think that what you guys have done with Passport and Envoy and everything else, like, I'm pretty sure I could sit with I'm going to say anyone like 70 and below pretty much, and do this in like an hour comfortably with single sig and it not really be a problem. Yeah, I might have to chase them every year to say, look, just make sure that you double check everything and get familiar with it. But it's not that hard. Like, you've done a very, very good job. I think that's the biggest problem. I really like inheritance is a problem. $5 wrench is a problem. People keeping their fucking mouths shut is a problem. Data leaks are a problem. All of that. And the last thing that anyone wants is someone on their fucking doorstep, whether that be government with guns or someone else with guns.
Yeah, I think you fucking nailed that, mate. You took all of my good talking points, so I'll just try and add where I can, basically. But I have been and remain a seed word maximalist. This summer we've had a lot of chatter around, BitKey saying seedless is safer. And we've done some deep dives into that on the brief before now, so I'll kind of save it here. But I think seed words are still paramount for where we're at right now. Do I think that people are going to be stamping 12 or 24 words and their passphrase into sets, pieces of steel in 10, 15, 20, 50 years' time? Definitely not. I think thanks to all of the improvements afoot and the ones that we don't even know about yet, such as, like you say, Miniscript, Taproot, the functionality of multisig will be vastly improved, as will what you can do with inheritance and social recovery, such that you're going to be able to construct a wallet where you have keys that are not yet active thanks to Miniscript, that you can give to family members, that you can rotate out thanks to the Frost protocol, even without them being involved or having to make on-chain transactions. You can do the same with inheritance. There's going to be privacy benefits thanks to Taproot-based multisig as well, and all of this is going to be able. You're going to be able to do all of this without having to ever touch seed words. You're just going to have multiple phones, hardware devices, each with their own one, and you're going to have enough redundancy built in without having any single points of failure, which is kind of the problem we have with multisig right now, in terms of, if I've got a 2 of 3 and I give you the third key to look after Max, that's not necessarily a single point of failure, but I'm putting a lot of trust in to you to look after that key for me. Mm-hmm. And, if something happens to one of my keys, I can only call upon you. All of the stuff I've just mentioned is going to open up that massively so that we can do it remotely. You can have more keys. You can give away keys that are, for a fact are not yet active, and all that sort of stuff, such that it's going to become almost fruitless, because if we can make that kind of behavior the norm, the whole $5 wrench attack kind of becomes almost not impossible, but it becomes not worth the risk to the attacker, because the normal security standard that a normal Bitcoiner has, that, if you break into their house, all they've got is their phone or one hardware wallet. And most people, that is just not going to be enough to spend from where their real amounts of Bitcoin are. And if you want to kind of stick around, you're going to have to hold them at gunpoint, wait for time locks to elapse, take them to different locations, compromise family members, and you're going to have to do all of that without raising any alarm. So it's just going to become, almost pointless for most attackers once we get all of those kind of improvements that, you and I have just mentioned. And I think that will be one of the big impetuses for kind of the next wave of self-custody, because it's literally just a case of, you've got this app on your phone or you've got a hardware device. You don't need to do any backups because you've got enough redundancy built in. It's just a case of, NFC or QR code, tap this, scan this. And if you lose something, again, you've got loads of redundancy built in such a way that, even if you did lose one or multiple of your keys, you can still call on friends and family members to help you out.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if we get to that stage, and maybe we're not a million miles away from it, suddenly the juice is not worth the squeeze for these criminals who, at the moment, like, they're looking at a lot of this stuff, and they're like, this is fucking easy. This is easy. All I have to do is scare this person enough or cause them enough pain, and they're going to squeal and they're going to give me a load of money. If it becomes the norm that doesn't work, then I think it's just going to be that they go, okay, this is no longer the hot new thing. This is not what I'm going to try. I think it's also going to be important that that's in some way provable, because you can get attacked by somebody who might not believe you, and you're still in the same situation. You still get the shit beaten out of you or tortured or whatever else happens to you if they don't believe you, even if it is true. So having some way to show without actually compromising the security, look, I can't fucking give you what you want. This is why. Mm-hmm. Very clearly, like, this is what you would have to do now to get this. Trust me, it's not fucking worth it. Here's another wallet that I have with X amount on it. I'm going to give you that just to leave me the fuck alone. All right. It's not what you wanted. This is all I can do. And they can see that, and it's clear, because otherwise you're going to have that problem regardless. Yeah, they're not going to get the money, but you might leave without kneecaps or whatever. And it's a real risk. And like, we've joked around about it before, but when there's family involved, it's another step up. When people have their life savings, it's a step up. It's no joke. And there are bad people out there who will do bad things. So you need to protect yourself.
Yeah, that provability when under duress is a great point, by the way, and it's part of the beautiful parts of like Miniscript. And if we get Vault built on top of CTV, it's all enforced on chain. Like if I've got a Vault built on top of the CTV upgrade, where I've encoded my cold storage addresses with a script to say that they have to go through a holding address where the keys are, they're in fucking, I don't know, Australia or something like that, just to be a little bit hyperbolic. We can be like, yeah, all right, you try and spend from that address and see what happens. If you try and spend to anywhere other than this wallet, it ain't going to work, mate. And that's enforced by the Bitcoin miners.
Exactly. Yeah. And it needs to be, we're talking about UX for simplicity of onboarding. Honestly, I think we're very fucking good. Like it's still has some room, but it's those type of UX things that I think are going to matter the most. It's like, okay, you have a gun to my head. Look, here's a screen. It's not a load of gibbery fucking gobbledygook of like code. It's like, look, here you go. You can see it's on chain. They're like, what the fuck is that? I'm going to hurt you more now. That's annoyed me. It needs to be very clear, picture book clear. Look, mate, you're not fucking getting it. I think those are the things that need to be worked on. I think that geographically located stuff is going to be key. Time locks are going to be key. All of these types of things, and just making that more standard practice is going to be an important thing.
Yeah, agreed. We just riffed on that for like 40 minutes. That was a really good one. Even if I do say so myself, a good first topic. Very, very keen to get some comments if you haven't done so already in the live chat, or even in on Fountain afterwards. Send us a little boost and let us know your thoughts here. Do you disagree with anything? Do you think there's other stuff that we haven't mentioned that might be the impetus for the next wave of people practicing self-custody? What needs to change in terms of, self-custody UX? What are you looking forward to? What do you think is shit? Get involved and let us know what you think.
Yeah, definitely do. We've got also loads and loads of questions from the previous episodes. Obviously, we've gone for 40 minutes. Should we jump into some of those? And then any questions that people have, I'll be now live, hopefully typing away very slowly, responding to people in the live chat. And we'll also cover anything that I can't on the next one. But for now, should we do some questions?
Yeah, man, let's do it. I think, did we do this one on the last show? Did the Unbounded pod, did he ask about our thoughts on Stack Wallet? I'm not sure whether we covered that one.
The Unbounded. I've not been on the Unbounded pod.
Oh, he's a friend of mine, and he sent us a question in asking, curious, do you know your opinions on Stack Wallet, the just Bitcoin and Monero wallet? It's an interesting approach, i.e. dual stack approach, but don't know much about them. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I can jump into this one. Yeah, Stack Duo, they've been around for a long time. We've had Diego on the pod maybe a couple of years ago, something like that. Seems like a good guy, works with his missus. She does all the UX, I think, and he does the other dev work. I've used it. It's pretty good, actually. It's like a simple, nice UX. You either have the normal stack, which has all the different cryptocurrencies and swapping services built in and all that stuff, or just the Bitcoin and Monero stack duo. I can't say a bad word about it. I think it's really good.
Is it cross-platform? I know I've tried it on Android.
What did I try it on? I think I tried it on Android as well, so I couldn't tell you honestly. Maybe someone in the chat can mention it. I think it is, but I couldn't tell you for sure.
No problem. All right, the next question comes from Rob G. And he asks, is an iPhone setup without iCloud, no Apple Pay, location services kept off, brackets, except when needed, good enough? Or does one really need to move over to Graphene OS? I'm just so damn used to my iPhone. Max, your thoughts?
Congratulations, Rob G, by the way. You won $50 worth of Bitcoin or Monero
We
on
did
the last
indeed,
episode.
yes. Thanks for getting involved.
Yeah, please do come and claim that from Cake Wallet. I like both. I still, even though I said 6 months ago that I was going to move just to one phone, I haven't managed to do that. I kind of like to run an iPhone and Graphene. I don't know if it's enough, if I'm honest. I never really fully trust my iPhone, but I also like it much, 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 much more than Android for a day-to-day phone. I'm not sure is the answer. What about you?
Yeah, it's hard to ignore the allure of the Apple ecosystem, isn't it? Rob, to answer your question, I'm gonna answer it with a question, which I know is kind of annoying, but allow me to pad it out afterwards. It depends. Like, who is your threat model? What are you thinking about moving to Graphene OS to protect yourself against? What do you use your phone for day to day? Like, what's important to you? Are you just using your phone to chat with your friends and family on WhatsApp, to take some photos of your kids, and to do some general social media stuff? Then yeah, an iPhone's probably absolutely fine. Yeah, you're probably going to get served some personalized ads and have your data from Instagram harvested and whatnot. But I guess that would be no different on something like Graphene OS if you use the phone for that sort of stuff. Or to flip it on its head and to go to the other end of the spectrum, are you, let's say, do you value verifiable end-to-end encrypted chat messengers and value open source software? Are you talking about issues with your friends that you want to be certain that nobody, no outsiders can read? Do you value an operating system that is, again, open source and verifiable? Are you storing lots of Bitcoin on your wallet? Are you an anti-hardware wallet person and you think a phone is good enough? Then yeah, maybe it makes sense to go down a more focused route and take the trade-offs that come with it, in the sense that you're not going to be able to have Google Pay. You said that you're going to keep all of the location tracking off and all that sort of stuff. I guess, however, there is a caveat with that. Even with the location services turned off, like if you're using a SIM in your phone, like you're still easily trackable by the right person.
Yeah.
So that's a trap that a lot of people fall into. So and yeah, I guess, like, do you want the sandboxing that Graphene OS does? Although I believe iOS does this as well. It's a difficult one. The main one for me, right, is because I firmly believe that iOS is a very, very secure operating system. And I don't believe that Apple are openly malicious to their customers, but it is a very much a trust me bro security model. completely closed source. You've got no idea what's going on. So you just have to trust that they're being honest and that they're saying, if you've got advanced data protection turned on and all that sort of stuff that you can get, that it is truly end-to-end encrypted and there's no backdoor, because you simply cannot verify it. If that's important to you and that's a deal breaker to you, then you need to look at elsewhere. Graphene OS is clearly, the front runner, and then you need to look for alternative services to like iCloud and things like that. Again, where they're open source and you can verify that. Let's say the Proton ecosystem is one I'm a huge fan of, where you can store your files, your photos, your emails, all end-to-end encrypted. Or maybe just to cap it off, there's a hybrid here. You can use an iPhone in the way that you've mentioned with all that shit turned off. Although, you could argue that kind of kills a lot of the magic of iOS, and then use bolt-on services on top of it, like the Proton ecosystem. If you don't have iCloud, then use Proton Drive, use Signal Messenger instead of Apple Messages, or what, I'm not even sure what it's called, but there are alternatives. But again, they're all still being ran on top of a closed source ecosystem. So is there some benefit to doing something like that? I would say yes, but again, you cannot quantify it because it's just running in a walled garden.
Yeah, that's fair. I think just if it really matters to you, there is not going to be a better option than Graphene OS, like realistically, but just it is going to have some trade-offs. It's not going to be as usable. It's not going to be as slick and pretty and everything else. So weigh it up. We'll have two. That's the other option. You can get an old Pixel for not a lot of money and use it for all your Bitcoin stuff if you need to.
Indeed. Yeah, if you're a psychopath, obviously, because carrying two phones is just completely crazy. But I see where you're coming from. The next one, very open-ended, this one, so we can take it wherever we want, Max. But the Dennis Prade asks, is Lightning really private?
Yeah, it's the most private coin in the world. It's incredible. There's no flaws, perfectly private for sending and receiving, and literally nothing to worry about.
Yeah, as always, Max is being a little bit facetious there, and the true answer is a lot more nuanced. Can Lightning be private? Yes, in some circumstances. If you're using Wallet of Satoshi custodial database, then no, it's not private because they are seeing the destination of all your payments. The same is true even for Phoenix, a wallet that I am quite a big fan of because of how easy it makes self-custodial Lightning. They can still see all of the destinations of your payments. But if you want to go through the hurdles of setting up your own Lightning node on a Start9 or an Umbrel or similar, managing your own channels, then yes, you can make quite good private payments with the Lightning Network. The reason for that is when you operate your own channels and your own node, you are doing all of the kind of route path finding yourself on your own node. You're not sharing that with anybody else, and you're not offloading that to a third party that, again, by the nature of them doing that, they see the final destination for you. So yes, generally, and this is a kind of sweeping generalization, if you run your own channels, then payments within the Lightning Network can be, in my opinion, private enough. And that's kind of the big selling point here. The problem that we've got with Lightning and privacy at the moment is on the receiving side. Generally speaking, if you use it in the most naive way, where you just send somebody a Bolt 11 invoice, encoded in that invoice is your node destination, and from that, anybody that generates an invoice for your node is able to see the UTXOs that powered the or are a part of that Lightning channel as well. So you do share quite a lot of information just simply by sending somebody an invoice, which is not ideal. And then from there, obviously, if they've got a link back to the chain, then if they're a sophisticated enough actor, they can then start to do some chain analysis to analyze where the funds came from before they even entered the Lightning Network as well. Clearly, that's not a very low-hanging fruit, but it's a possibility for the right motivated actor. There are developments afoot in varying levels of implementation, things like rendezvous routing, trampoline routing, and things like blinded paths with respect to C Lightning and Bolt 12, where they basically are able to mask all of that kind of receiver information that would typically be shared by a Bolt 11 invoice. These kind of implementations or these upgrades aim to fix that. So once these are prevalent, then I will reconstitute my answer. Obviously, after doing a bit more homework, of course, but to say that is Lightning really private? Yes, it could be good enough if you want to go through the hurdles of creating and managing your own channels. Then yes, I foresee a future in the not too distant future where yes, Lightning could be good enough from a privacy perspective. Now, the point remains, and this is where I might let Max chime in, is you've got to get those funds into Lightning. So your on-chain privacy is still important because you need to enter the Lightning Network somehow. And if you're doing that in a self-sovereign manner by managing your own channels, then you're going to have at least one UTXO entering the Lightning Network to be locked up into that to multisig. That seems like it's a completely separate question and would take me way over time. But I've been waffling for a while, so I want to see if Max has got any hot takes to tell me I'm wrong.
No, I agree with all that. I would say you can use like a bolt swap or something like that is not a bad option, or other swapping services if you're using a UTXO that's not currently tied to your identity. Maybe you've taken it as a payment for goods or services, or bought it in cash, or it's been mined or something like that. That would be the ideal thing for opening a channel or for doing the swap. And then, once you have Lightning and when you have your own channels and things, it is definitely no question better for sending than on-chain for privacy. Like, there's no question there. That's not what I'm debating. If I have the option to send and it works with Lightning, I'll use that over on-chain, but I'll use Monero over Lightning. It's just there's levels to it. Just if you are going to open a channel, then make sure that you're thoughtful about how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just before, because I'm going to run up on time shortly, before we take, we're not going to have time for another question, just to pad this one out just for one more minute. Any recommendations, or what would your personal recommendation be for somebody that did want to enter into self-custodial Lightning? Because I know it's something that you fucked around with varying levels of success in the last couple of years.
I've run many Lightning nodes and fucked most of them up. I think best setup. Can you hear me, by the way? It's raining like fuck where I am.
Yeah, you can hear the rain in the background, but your voice is still coming through.
It's okay. Yeah, I think the most success I've had is running C Lightning on a Start9. That has been pretty solid, and then I'm using Zeus connected to that on my phone. And that's, I think, I can't really complain. I also run currently a Luna node, which is pretty solid. We use that for all our BTC Pay stuff. That's not bad. Outside of that, I don't really know what to suggest. I think both of those options are pretty good. Obviously, we now have MyNimbox as a new sponsor. Like, that could be another option for running a Lightning node if you don't want to do it at home. But, Zeus is very good for mobile. It's always channel management that seems to be some type of issue for sending larger payments.
Yeah, I tend to co-sign most of that. I rag on Raspberry Pis all the time. However, my longest running Lightning channel is actually still on a Lightning on a Raspberry Pi running an Umbrel, which is funny. And I often think, similar to multi-sig backups, Lightning channel management often gets, or the burden of which often gets overstated. For most people, if they kind of set up a robust Lightning node, again, I would recommend something like a Start9 on a mini desktop PC, a proper piece of hardware. Then choose C Lightning or LND and open up, a large channel, probably like $1,000 or something like that. And then you just have all the liquidity on your side just to spend. And you're not a merchant. You don't need to receive very often. then the rate at which you're going to need to manage that channel or the liquidity within is going to be pretty low for most people. So it can often be overstated how much of a burden it is, especially when you're just starting out and you're just kind of doing a few small payments here and there, sending and receiving. Like, you're not going to need to worry about. Yeah, you're not going to need to worry about rebalancing those channels. It's when you get into the realms of being a merchant, you've got lots of payments coming one way, maybe people purchasing hoodies off your ungovernable web store and that sort of stuff, is when, the headaches start and the more kind of attentive you need to be to your channels.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah, I think it's not, I sometimes do overstate how much of a fucking nightmare it can be. I guess it can be done. It's just extra work, and it is a very, very useful tool and better for sending, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question there, the Unbounded Pod, Rob G and Dennis Prade. Appreciate you guys getting involved and giving us something to riff on for 20 minutes or so. I think that was a successful show number 4, Max, don't you?
I think so.
When people are hearing this Friday, not live, I will be in Riga next Friday, hopefully live, for show number 5, and hopefully we'll be back to the 3 of us, all being well. I don't think Seth's going to be in Riga, so we're going to be in 3 very different parts of the world, so let's work on tying up our time zones in the meantime. But with that said, if you're listening to this, thank you for being in the live chat. Thanks for getting involved. Keep posting your questions. Keep sending us your topics. Yeah, the more of you that get involved, the bigger the show gets. Please share it. Please like it. Please send us a boost. Really does help. And free samurai.
Free samurai.